Welcome into the I-80 Club. They lost again. Hi, Jack.
Yeah. Here we are again. Soul crushing. Another one. I respect you guys for coming back. I respect you guys a lot for coming back and wanting to hear about it. I don't know that I would at this point. To me, and you'll probably hear this throughout the show, I've moved on from interest to Josh in what went wrong and how to remedy it. And to me, the more interesting, even productive conversation is now just appreciating the sheer ridiculousness and unlikeliness of this unbelievable carousel of living hell that we've all gotten on that will never end. And and then obviously sort of bathing in the self-pity of it all, right? And just say what is happening to us has never really happened, perhaps to any fan base of any sport of all time. And that kind of makes it special, if nothing else. We're going through something no one, it's like, Josh, I'll speak in your language. It's like running ultra marathons on back-to-back days. Okay.
Oh,
it's
fun.
It's like the emotional equivalent of that. And we have done it. Others haven't. Nobody been there. It's like you can talk to people who are other fan bases, and you can kind of talk condescendingly to them about having not been through the battles, the emotional scars that you've had, right? We are, in our own way, veterans of enduring
of groin kick army
pain. Yes. Thank you for our service. I might say.
Thank us for our service or for your service.
Thank us for our service.
Either way,
right?
there's
so
service
other people
happening.
can win. So you all can enjoy your weekends of winning games, for storming fields, for it being happy on Saturdays and claiming trophies and all that fun. You all can do that because we went ahead before you and endured all of the pain. We took it all on ourselves so you all could enjoy college football, you other fan bases. So you're welcome.
You're welcome for all of that. If you're joining us live right now here on YouTube, this is the I-80 Club. We appreciate you stopping by. We normally do this Saturday podcast for patrons only. It is usually just behind the paywall, but because Nebraska's regular season came to a close yesterday, we decided to do it this morning for free on YouTube. We would love for you to like and subscribe and hang out with us. And also, if you like this show and you want more from us, you can go to patreon.com/I80 Club. During the football season, we promised 3 pods a week, a midweek pod, a Saturday morning pod, and then a postgame pod either on Saturday night or Sunday morning. This week it's on Saturday morning. We have followed through on that, Jack. We did 12 postgame pods this year, which is the most that we have ever done. We've had a great time. We've also introduced After Nebraska Ball. The next new episode of that will be tomorrow night, if you would like to join Jack, Caleb, Henry, and Jacob Bigelow for that. But if you want to hang out with us a little bit more, we would love to have you here. And if you hear us reading comments, those are coming from inside of our I-80 Club Discord server. So if you want to read a comment, either you can join there, or we do accept the super chats, Jack. So if somebody wants to throw a super chat our way, we'll be happy to read that there. I want to start with this. You did Bigger Overreaction last night with Connor Happer, and there was that guy who called in who said that he's like a data scientist and he's done the research for the last 6 years, and he has answers that he thinks are going to surprise some people. What the hell did that mean? What is happening with research?
I don't know, but I was texting Connor last night at like 1 a.m, and I was like, I can't stop thinking about what that guy said. Like, is he gonna drop some data that is gonna change everything? Like, does he have literal analytics that prove a curse? And I'm gonna be right about all of this by the numbers? Because if he's sitting on something, give it to the world. It was an amazing call. And he sounded dead serious too. He
did the whole time. The whole call, he sounded very serious.
He's like, I'm in analytics in, I think he said, the financial sector. And he was like, I've been looking at the numbers and I've stumbled on something, and it's going to like blow the roof off anybody who says that Nebraska isn't cursed. And I don't even know what that means, but I kind of believe him. And so I am really, really hoping this guy actually has something that is going to do that. It was fantastic.
It's going to be good to do that. You are also called out for mentioning that the groin kick era is done when it is famously now not done. So, hey, at least when we do our groin kick jukebox project sometime this offseason, there's another game that gets to get added to it. And mathematically, Jack, I wonder where this one is going to rank compared to some of the other brutal losses that the program has had.
I think it was, I'm trying to remember the name. I think the caller was Tyler. And he called me out and he was like, you know, he wanted something formal. And he was like, you're a pastor's son. And he made good arguments. Listen, I can't now, did I jinx them? I tend not to believe it, but I prematurely called the era over. And that was stupid. That was completely stupid. And here's why. The groin kick era will only end, Josh. And I knew this. And I even intimated at it. The groin kick era will only end, Josh, when Nebraska wins a one possession game, right? When Nebraska wins the style of game, they keep losing. They will complete that drive that Dylan Raiola started instead of turning it over for the umpteenth time. They will make the stop. They will block the field goal that always goes in. Until they do that, it lives on. And Josh, I think it probably lives on. I don't know if you can even break the groin kick era in a bowl. That's a good discussion to have. But I think it probably lives on through the season.
Yeah, especially in a bowl in an era of opt-outs and stuff. Like, are we really going to say that is the end of the groin kick era if they beat, like a 500, Oklahoma team because they have a game-winning touchdown? Yes. Maybe they will. Mike with the super chat on YouTube. Big Red Overreaction was great. Like an awkward car crash. There you go. I only have a segment and a half left to listen to, Jack. So I've gotten through most of it. I've laughed quite a bit, honestly, at some of the stuff.
I'm glad. I didn't feel very energetic, but on the other hand, it was on the other hand, by the end, I was feeling pretty good. Like I came into it, I was like, God, I don't want to freaking do this. And I had never done that show, and I've really never worked with Connor for very much. So to be honest, like by the end, I was like, this kind of took the edge off the searing white hot sadness that is tearing apart the innards of my soul right now. So that was kind of nice.
Well, that's perfect. A comment from D'Lo on our Discord server. He says, maybe we moved away from the groin and are now focused on the rectum area. Oh, was this the first of the rectum kicks, Jack?
Oh my God. Do we have another 10 years that's now the rectum era? The rectum violation era? I don't know what it's called.
I don't want to think about getting kicked in the rectum over and over and over and what that could mean for Husker football moving forward. That sounds pretty brutal.
Josh, remember when I went back and I said about the USC game, I was like, this checks every box of the groin kick era. And then we had a little debate on whether the USC game was the groin kickiest of the groin kick era. Will there ever be a game that's more groin kicky than what just happened in Iowa City? Like, will there now, if I thought USC was quintessential, this one was way more quintessential, was it not?
Correct.
It had everything. Like, if that was now, that's what I call groin kicks 1. This was now what I call groin kicks 2, and they got better licensing for this one because they included even more big hits, right? Even more of the dramatic stuff. I mean, Iowa having no third down conversions and winning. I mean, just amazing. The special team, we got our special teams catastrophic play on this one, Josh. I believe that was not present in the USC game.
Hey, how about the fact, Jack, that on back-to-back special teams plays, they miss the field goal because of the bad snap, so they miss the field goal. Then they hold Iowa. I think Iowa has a 5-play drive. So then the next special teams play is the whatever you want to call that, the muffed punt. The missed punt, the mishandled punt. So 2 special teams plays in a row. And then I believe somebody pointed out that the next special teams play then would have come on the kickoff return, and they returned it to the 19-yard line. So, it was just boom, 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 bad. And Nebraska suddenly, they're up by 7. They still have a 1-score lead. The defense, they push Iowa back essentially on that drive, and yet it's like, oh my gosh, it is all starting to happen again for this team. How are they going to blow it this time? That was the beginning. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying anything new here, but that missed field goal into the muff punt was the beginning of the end for the team. On Friday.
The muffed punt was the true classic oh shit moment, right?
Yes,
that was. Yes, we've talked about that moment before. I don't know that you had that in the USC game. You definitely, that was it. The muffed punt, and add on top, a probably bad call on top of it, which just all of it right in there. The writers are doing so well. Like, it's a little on the nose. I'm going to be honest, a little bit on the nose, but still, you're really getting the things that people come back for when you hit all of them like that. So kudos to combine the special teams catastrophic play with a potentially bad call, a probably bad call that was really good. Really good stuff.
The other thing, Jack, and I haven't had a chance this morning to dive into the play-by-play data. I plan on doing this. I might do it on the plane, honestly, just as a way to punch myself in the nuts for an hour and a half when I fly to Omaha. I am fairly confident that Iowa had 3 plays above 10 yards on offense. If I am doing the memory right. So I'm looking at it.
One of them's a touchdown.
One of them is the famous touchdown. Caleb Johnson, Jack, also on a drive in the first half, he rushed for 11. It was the first down that Iowa had picked up. That was the first play that they had above 10 yards. Let's see. In the second half, there's a drive in here where I could have sworn they gained. Yes, here it is. Caleb Johnson.
Jacob Gill had a reception for 17 yards. That was at the end in the second half.
Okay. And Caleb Johnson also, after the missed field goal, had a rush of 25. So now we are counting the touchdown, Jack. Okay, never mind. So that I believe the answer then is 4. Iowa had 4 plays above 10 yards.
Johnson had 2 runs, the catch, and then the Jacob Gill catch for 17.
So 4. And then, Jack, I need to look at this a little bit more. I don't think that they had very many plays more than 5 yards. I mean, I think that you're probably looking at 10 plays above 5 yards. You're looking at 4 plays above 10 yards. You were looking at Nebraska holding them to 2 yards or less on the majority of the plays, including many plays where they pushed them back. 5 first downs. And in the end, it still does. I mean, it's just ridiculous stuff. Yet again, ridiculous stuff.
An underrated little nuance of the groin kick era that only groin kick heads will know and see is when Nebraska does successfully the one thing you say that they have to do successfully to win the game, and they do it with flying colors. I said to you, Josh, I believe on Tuesday night or yesterday morning, who knows at this point. I said, Josh, we were talking about the offense, and I said, but Josh, you know what? Here's what's going to determine whether or not Nebraska wins. It's whether or not they can stop Caleb Johnson on the ground. If he's not busting off big runs all night long, I feel great about Nebraska winning this game. Well, guess what? He wasn't, as you just outlined. Of course, he did get the long pass, the long catch. But other than that, they shut him down. They shut him down better than I could have ever dreamed, Josh. They would have shut him down. And still they lose the game. That's kind of a deeper thing that you really have to kind of watch it over a few times to start to see what the writers are doing with that. So,
Jack, what have we said since the Illinois game in particular? Like, man, the tackling this year just not as good. The tackling this year, it's really struggled. And for all but one play, the tackling on Friday night was spectacular. They were tackling from play 1, they were in the backfield until
driving
the very last
backwards.
Play, honestly. Yep. Yeah, they were pushing him back. They did it except for one play where he breaks a tackle on a pass, and then Bullock comes up, right? It's Bullock who had him, but he was a little too high, and then another player comes over, bumps into him.
Singleton, kind of knocks him down.
Off to the races.
And there was, listen, and there was holding. The wide receiver on the bottom of the screen was blatantly holding, but they're not going to call it, obviously. But it was. But Nebraska, I tweeted a still of that right when Caleb Johnson had the ball, and it was you cannot. Number one, you can see the hold in it, but even more than that, you can see how Nebraska has got it perfectly defended. Josh, they've got someone surrounding him. They're outnumbering the blockers, and it's shocking that looking from the still that he actually scored on the thing. You had to have, honestly, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Tommy Frazier against Florida a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah, not as many broken tackles, but still, how in the world are they not taking him to the ground?
Yeah, I think every guy assumed someone else was going to get it in some ways.
And then Jack, because they played after that, how many yards did he have to run after he broke the final tackle? It was still 50, and it was bad angles on the sidelines.
Yeah, then somebody got a block at the very end. He almost got caught from behind, but they got just a little contact at the end to stop it. And 72 yards, man. 72 yards, backbreaking. Your offense got one good play, basically one good play, one really good play the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you went backwards the vast majority of the time.
Absolutely brutal.
Yeah, Nebraska can't get enough points.
Absolutely brutal.
Just unreal.
Do you think, Jack, like there's still another game, and we'll talk about that game at some point in time. We'll find out a week from tomorrow who they're playing, though I'm guessing there will be reporting over the next week about it. Is this, and I thought we haven't even talked about the offense really. We'll talk about them. Is this going to sap, though, all of the momentum? Like, is the momentum that was earned in the Wisconsin game now toast? Is that all gone because of what happened last night? Is it dependent on the bowl game? Does the bowl game even matter for this conversation?
I don't know. That's a good question. It feels too early to really get a good feel of that because I'm still in the throes of self-pity after this loss. I'm sure I will, I'm sure I will feel a little, better as time goes on. So I think that question will be better answered a little bit down the road. But answer your question. Does it take, the good thing about the Wisconsin game was, number one, it got you in a bowl, but number two, it changed the momentum of everything. And we talked about how valuable getting a win in this last game would be in terms of the momentum. And that definitely wasn't it. That definitely wasn't it. So super. I don't know. Like, I don't know what a bowl can do at this point. Again, ask me in a couple weeks. Ask me in a couple weeks because it'll feel, again, the immediacy of the pain of this game may go away a little bit. And I'm always a little bit surprised. Like, some teams really take bowl wins, like they're big deals.
They use it as a way to springboard into the following year, right?
Others not so much. And you can never predict whether I used to always say, look, people way overestimate the bowl results in prognosticating the next year. That doesn't happen, I don't think, as much as it used to. It's used to be
very much changed.
But I don't think that's a great tool to prognosticate forward. But that said, I do think there's some, because Nebraska hasn't been to one for so long, I think if they win it, they will make a big deal of it, and they will sap any amount of momentum and positivity they could grab from a win on that. I know Matt Rule will, if they can do it. He will make a huge deal of it.
If I could make a prediction, it would be that Nebraska is going to take the bowl game as seriously as humanly possible,
100%.
Much more serious than their opponent. And you know what? Like, in a way, Jack, dare I say, that might actually put more pressure on them because they're going to take it seriously. I don't know if we're going to be able to say the same about their opponent, depending on who it is. They will take it seriously. If they are unable to get a win when you are taking it seriously and finishing 6-7, it's like they would overcome the first thing. They finally got to a bowl game, but they would have another season of sub 500. And it's like, wow, so what do you do with that? Because it would mean, Jack, you start 5-1. And to finish the season, you would go 1-6. They finished the regular season 1-5. So either way, it's not like the season ended with good vibes.
And Josh, add on what Wisconsin did yesterday too. Mm-hmm. That probably adds to the whole sort of evaluation of that win.
Totally.
At the end of the day, we had to look at where Wisconsin was.
100%. Coming out of that game.
They're in a worse place. Hey, they're in a worse place than we are, right? You can always sleep well at night knowing they're somehow unbelievably at making the twin hire at the same time. It went miserably for Nebraska. It is somehow going worse for Wisconsin. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. They're down really bad. My wife, who is, by the way, listening right in front of me, laying in the Airbnb bed, says Wisconsin was not a good win. It was an important win. 100%. And I think that's a very good way, very good way to describe it. But, Jack, coming out of that game, of course, the main topic of conversation was the offense. They moved up and down the field on Wisconsin. They scored 44 points on Wisconsin. They looked as crisp as they had since the September games against Wisconsin. They finished last night. They outgained Iowa by, 170 yards on the dot. They have 75 more passing yards than Iowa. They have almost 100 more rushing yards than Iowa. They hold the ball, Jack, for 39 minutes and 1 second versus just 20:59 for Iowa. And they lose. They outgain them 20 first downs to just 5 first downs. They convert on 8 of 17 third downs, whereas Iowa only had 8 of 10. And Happer brought this up on last night's Big Red Overreaction when you said, man, if you would have told me about Caleb Johnson's numbers, I would have said we're going to feel really good. And then Happer goes, yeah, but what if I would have told you about the 2 turnovers? And those 2 turnovers were absolutely massive. I'm with you, kind of working backwards, and not to make any excuses. I was a little surprised that they overturned the fumble just because I never thought that there was any conclusive evidence that Dylan Raiola didn't get it first before the Iowa player took it away.
I never saw a good angle of what really happened.
No, neither did I. It was.
So I thought maybe
really
they wouldn't.
Strange.
And then they kind of changed the call before they looked at the replay, which Connor and I were talking about. That kind of adjusted the burden of proof, so to speak.
Yeah.
on that whole thing.
Because then they didn't have to prove that they got a turnover. They had to prove that they didn't get a turnover.
Right.
Whatever.
I'm not going to whine. I'm not going to whine. I don't listen. I'm not a big bad calls guy. That's not my thing.
You're not.
That's never been
you never
my
talk refs.
thing. That's. It was funny. I had callers who were like wanting me to talk about bad calls, and I'm like, you know what? It's sort of been beaten out of me. I don't even have the spirit to talk about the multiple bad calls that impacted the game last night, because in the end, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is the result is predestined. Nothing matters. Nothing matters. Nothing we're talking about matters. It's happening. So
a couple things in away from the bad calls. NU1 writes, Dylan Raiola looks out of place in close games. D'Lo writes that Dylan's pocket presence, looking forward to when he develops some. Yeah, man, it was
100. Tough. Josh, that's my
tough.
biggest takeaway on the offense.
Really?
That is my biggest takeaway on the offense last night. He is still, to me, it feels like he is so turnover / risk averse. The way he makes decisions, it's stunting his growth right now. It is really he uses those checkdowns like freaking safety blankets all the time. And it feels like he is so reluctant to scan the field deep. And they would give us replays, Josh, sometimes of the back angle, right? Like almost the all 22, not quite. And it felt like every time on a pass play, I don't know if you noticed this, but Johnny would see a guy. He was like, there, somebody's open, right? Somebody's open downfield, or at least open enough to give a shot at it. It was maybe Fedoni, or maybe it was Carter Nelson, or maybe it was Banks. But what does he end up doing? Dumping it off to Emmett Johnson usually, or Barney, or somebody like 3 yards from the line of scrimmage, over and over again. He's got to get some ability and some willingness to throw it downfield like that. Yeah. Nebraska not doing that enough. Like, I think they had that. I mean, you look at that first play on that first drive, they had Jalen Lloyd on that play.
He was wide open. He was wide open.
And then he never, after that, he didn't throw it deep again. I don't know if he doesn't trust himself at this point or what, but something is weird about his decision making.
Yeah, his deep pass has been off all season long. He most of the time he underthrew guys, and it started with the interception in the Northern Iowa game. There was an interception in the Illinois game, and there were times where the receivers definitely should have gone for it a little bit harder, but he underthrew guys, and then that started getting worse and worse and worse. And even though it drew like a million pass interference penalties against Purdue, you're not going to get to play a team as bad as Purdue every week, so that's not going to happen. He rarely overthrew guys, but it did show up in some of the worst moments of the entire season. He overthrew Banks in the Ohio State game. He overthrew Jalen Lloyd last night versus Iowa. And, I mean, those were like touchdown moments that would have completely changed the game in either of those matchups versus Ohio State and Iowa. And especially that one, it's so early. So, I don't want to say oh man, they definitely win the game if they complete that. But man, that's 7 points that they left on the board. Seven points that they just completely left, or on the field. Rather.
That one, and then of course he does hit one on target to Nair, and Nair drops it, man. Like,
oh my gosh,
like he finally took a shot like that, and not that was a deep fly pattern, but
no, that was one of those.
It was an intermediate, somewhat sort of risky pass for him, and he had it, and he finally had it, and the receiver didn't get it. Like, how the offense's problem is the complete inability to connect on downfield passing. And his completion percentage looks good because all of his passes are within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. It reminds me of the Adrian Martinez year. I think it would have been 2021 when his completion percentage skyrocketed compared to his first 3 years. But you look at the yards per attempt and it's way too low to even matter. And so it's like, cool, you're completing 70% of your passes, but who cares about it? When you're completing 70%, but you're averaging 5 point whatever yards per attempt. That's a good running back, but it's not a good, quarterback.
I feel like whether on, an intermediate pass or a deep pass, does it feel like I've never seen him throw the ball hard, right? Rear back and either throw a bullet on a timing pattern or rear back and just throw a deep fly ball, right? I feel like I never saw that from him. And I feel like that's a missed opportunity when you get a quarterback like him, because you watch his highlights in high school and that's all it is. It's just like marveling at his arm strength. And of course, yes, he does a good job layering. He does, he's good at that.
Yeah, he had a couple of those yesterday again.
He did that again. He's got that down with the touch, some of those touch passes. But man, the timing ones where he's got to lead somebody or at least, lead somebody deep, that's part of the reason you get him. That's why you're excited about getting a 5-star quarterback, Josh. And I'm not giving up on him by any means. He's got to get coached. I think people were talking about in the chat. But that's, you want to know the biggest reason why he and the offense hasn't been successful, at least as the part that pertains to him. That's why, in my opinion, he feels like he's using a third of his arsenal in the passing game or less.
Mm-hmm. And isn't it funny? Because you said this last night with Happer that you feel like and you said this for months with us too. So this isn't like a brand new comment, but how risk averse he has turned into, how they beat out the turnovers, don't turn it over, don't turn it over, don't turn it over. And yet now, Jack, after 12 regular season games, they are now in the minus. So all of that work, he finished with 10 picks. All of that work, he finished with 12
What did you get for it? What did you get for your
risk
aversion?
Yeah, it made games that were close, like this one, come down to these moments where the turnovers ended up just being crippling and backbreaking to the entire operation. And they got away with fumbles all night last night, including on the final drive before the one where they didn't get away. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. That was the one I said to Connor. I was like, when Nebraska got that, I thought that was the part in the script where it was supposed to fall apart, and Nebraska sort of jumped to that. And so we had broken the space-time continuum, and that ended the curse because the script didn't go as planned then. But then they just wrote another fumble in later. So I was wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Huss writes, y'all, our 5-star quarterback is not the problem. So he is not the problem. I think he is certainly a problem.
Yeah.
I feel like we've hit on everything, though, from last night, Jack, in terms of why they lost.
What else was the problem on offense last night? The running game wasn't the problem last night, right?
Running game was definitely not the problem. I mean, receivers dropping passes and just the passing game. The passing game not being, as good as it could have been, whether some of it was on Dylan, which it was, and some of it was on the receivers. And in particular, the Nair drop is going to be the one that I will – I mean, I woke up, Jack. I woke up at some point this morning to use the restroom, and I thought about that play. I thought about that play while I'm in the bathroom. I'm like, my God, that Nair drop is just gross. It is a disgusting play.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I also thought Jamal Banks saved him multiple times last night with great catches.
He did. Dude, the first was it the first drive of the game when he has that really nice catch? That one was way awesome when he
was getting interfered with on a third down, and he got interfered with. Yeah. They didn't call it. He made a great catch there. He went up and got it, high pointed the ball.
Yeah.
There was another one where Dylan made a really good throw, but Banks made a really good catch. I mean, yeah, Nair was an issue, but I mean, to say it was all on the receivers last night. I mean,
no, it was a combination on everything.
Passing game, there's shared blame, right? And he usually had time too. He usually had time.
Yeah.
Sometimes he had a lot of time.
When people talk about pocket presence, sometimes I just think of, the guy is bad at anticipating pressure. I think where it really shows with Dylan is that he doesn't step up. He'll have the pocket, Jack. They'll have him protected, and they have the room, and he just needs to step up into that pocket. He made a decision to run at times last night. He had a great decision on a keeper on a zone read, and he picked up yards. He also was a little too tentative at times, where he waited too long, and then he either got a yard or two, or he got sacked or whatever it was, and he sometimes took the wrong angle. But he just that's something that you hope that he develops a little bit, moving into next season, is that he's much better at stepping up into the pocket, allowing for that to be a positive for him.
I'm talking primarily about the chat is there's sort of a weird thing going on in the chat where there's a few people getting at us saying we're putting too much.
I think they're disagreeing with each other. I don't think they're getting at us. They're arguing with each other right now.
Just to be clear, during the season there were all kinds of issues. I was mainly focusing on last night, and then just if you're talking about Dylan's problems, I'm diagnosing what his problems are to the extent that they are a part of the issue. But no, the entire season. If you're talking about the entire season, of course the receivers were a problem. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Without a doubt, and the lack of a running game was maybe even a bigger problem during the season. The fact that they got the running, that's still the biggest success, honestly, Josh, of the Dana Holgorsen offense. It's not any passing play calls. It's not, to me, opening Dylan up. It's that the running game looked consistently different after the second half of the USC game for the rest of the year when Dana was here, for whatever reason. I still don't know if I have the answer to why it really happened. But if that running game was there the entire season, that changes a ton about the offense. So I agree to the extent that that's part of it.
David writes, did we talk about that 4th and short around midfield they didn't go for? Felt like that and another 4th and short, maybe further back, were ones that they should have attempted. What did they have to lose? Defense was playing well. Dude, how about the 4th down, Jack, where they line up and I think they're going to go for it, and Mazuka jumps, right? Was that the one where Mazuka jumped and
was that the one?
Suddenly they had to punt it?
Was it Matu?
Yes, it was. You're right. It was Gatula. Mazuka had the hold penalties that I'm thinking of, right? Yeah. So you're
that was the one time they were going to go for it on fourth, I should say. And what do you know? Once again,
that was
on
nasty.
A huge play. It's happened like 5 times this year in games where they've got a huge play that they're either going to go for it or they need to score on a key play, and there's a false start. It's shocking. Yeah. That happened again, because who knows? But yeah, you're right. I'm trying to remember which one we're talking about, Josh, at midfield, where they didn't go, where they went ahead and punted. You're talking about?
I think that it was one, if I'm remembering what David is talking about, I'm fairly confident it was one in the first half or maybe early second where they decide to punt, and it was like a 20-yard punt. And so it's like, that was worthless. You didn't even gain any of the field position that you were hoping.
I know.
Because Buschini was a tough hang in the first half.
I was torn the whole night on 4th downs, Josh, because there's one time like Dylan, that might have been the one Dylan really wanted to go one time and they didn't go and they didn't make it. But like, I was really torn because there was a part of me that thought, well, you could get a crappy punt like you were saying, and it's not going to make that much of a difference. On the other hand, as long as you keep pushing Iowa back, they're not going to pop a big play and score. And what did they do? I was wrong, right? They popped the one freaking big play and scored and didn't the rest of the game. The one I wanted to go for was, and Johnny and I were arguing about at the time, I said it in the moment, when they kicked the field goal and missed it, it was 4th and 6, and I was like, they got to go for this. I was like, if you get a touchdown, the game's over. 7. I thought if they scored there, so they would have scored the last drive before half, and they would have scored there the first drive, and they'd be up 3 possessions. They would have got that touchdown. I think the game would have been over, and I knew there was some risk with the field goal, even though things had been going well. I think it was 4th and 5 or 4th and 6, so it wasn't necessarily a short one. Maybe it was 4. But I said in the moment, it was 6. I said in the moment, go for that. Go try and sink the dagger in them right there. All they want you to do is try and hang around. And of course, they kick the field goal. They don't execute. They missed that one. And 13 points didn't feel all that different than 10, but 17 would have felt super different than 10 to me.
Yeah, and it's just, dude, it is so wild to me that this program has been unable this entire year. And like, I get it. I guess once the season starts, it is what it is. But that they could not find a snapper who could do a better job of setting those up and that would allow for the entire operation to be smoother. Because, I mean, Jack, there have been some bad snaps this season. That was among the worst of the entire year.
Yeah, actually,
and then
Buschini actually did a relatively good. I was going to say Buschini actually did a relatively good job.
Sideways. Oh my gosh, absolutely brutal, man, absolutely brutal.
And so
I'll disagree with you. I didn't have an issue with them not going for it, even though like it has been a roller coaster of a ride. But I would have understood it if they would have. So I guess in the end, I'm kind of wishy-washy.
I don't know if I had an issue. I was just I don't know if I had an issue with it. I was saying take the shot, take the risk here. I think the risk is worth it in this situation.
Yeah. And then what's crazy too is, so again, we talked about it earlier. That's a special teams blunder. The defense then bows up. They do a good job. They force a punt. Then one of the just crazier decisions of everyone thinks it goes off of IGC. It does not go off of IGC. Then Shavers touches it first, maybe. We never really got a good, perfect look at that. At the very least, it seemed like they touched it at the same time. And then the defense bows up again. And I think they allow 2 yards on that drive. And I'm thinking, if I'm Iowa, you got to go for it, right? Nope. They decide to kick the field goal, and they make it a 10-3 ball game. I thought that the defense responded. Again, they had one bad play. Even on the final drive of the game, Jack, they're pushing Iowa backwards and forcing the field goal to be longer. They did pretty much everything you could have. This was not a Nebraska defense last year situation where they came on the field with the game tied, or they came on the field down by a score, whatever it was. No, they came on the field and they made plays, except for the Caleb Johnson play. Even on the field goal drives, after turnovers, they made massive plays and they pushed Iowa back and made things.
They almost threw a no-hitter. They almost played the perfect game.
I know, man.
Right?
I know.
Like if you take that away, if you take that play away, which you can't, obviously, but that's 72 yards. And so their total yards for the game, if you end up taking that, is what? What did they end up? They ended up with 115 receiving and 49 rushing. So it's
Crazy,
like, so it's under 100 yards for the game. That's 90 yards for the game ish.
Against one of the best rushing offenses in the country, too. Against the second best running back in college football. And he did nothing the entire game. Absolutely
they schemed those. I mean, they played that schematically. They played it great. And the defensive line dominated. It was exactly what we said, Josh. Again, it was exactly what we said, is that perhaps if Nebraska knows that the run is coming and that the pass is not going to be a big threat, unlike Indiana, unlike USC, that defensive line is going to be able to dominate. And the linebackers played great. I thought Bayer had his best game as a Husker last night. Bullock, other than the one play, obviously, I thought had a really good play. I thought the linebackers played altogether really, and Ty Robinson was ridiculous. I mean, like he was murdering people out there. James Williams had a good game. It sucks to waste that defensive effort. It really does.
Yeah, and so did they have any sacks, Jack? I'm looking at the numbers right now, and Stratton had negative rushing yards. So I think that they got to him one time. He has three carries for -2 yards. He had a long of 2. So I'm guessing they had one sack mixed in there. But D'Lo said it a couple minutes ago, just needed one turnover. They did not get, they did have one sack. They didn't get the turnover. And that is the thing. Like, Nebraska had some bounces go their way when they fumbled it. Iowa had that one play where they had 2 fumbles on the same play, and they recovered both of them. And they
That's
actually
right.
ended up
I
picking
totally
up
forgot
yards.
about that play. We didn't even talk about that on BROR. Wow.
Yeah,
he just dropped it. Yeah, that's right. Oh,
yeah. Nasty.
That quarterback sucked. Wow.
Dude, he was horrible.
They were warming up the running guy at halftime, and I was like, oh, no. I was like, they're going to put the running guy in, and that's going to be way better. Their other quarterback.
So, Jack, he goes 8 of 15 for 115 yards, 1 touchdown, the long of 72. So if you take away that one play, he went 7 of 14. So he completed 50% of his passes for 43 yards.
Yeah. Kind of sounds like Dylan Raiola's number, to be honest. But anyway,
dude, yeah. Dude, I mean, they essentially, outside of one play, they held him to 80 yards the entire game. Yeah. Like you said, they pretty much pitched a no-hitter. They gave up 5 first downs.
Negative rushes. How many negative rushes did they have? Holy cow.
I know. Yeah.
Like just backwards. And wasn't Iowa weird too that they would put Moulton in 28 on like big third down plays and not keep Johnson in, and they would give it to him? I'm like, what are you guys doing? Thank you. Why in the hell are you taking the best offensive player in this game by far off the field? It was bizarre.
Yeah, Matt says havoc rate was up. Yes, it was.
Yeah,
the Nebraska was getting in the backfield. And again, I'm gonna go look Jack at play by play, and I want to see how many plays went for negative yards, how many went for 0 to 2, how many went for 3 to 5, and then how many went for 5 or more. Because again, we did the math. 4 plays went for more than 10 yards, and there were not many plays that were 5 to 10 either. I mean, it was.
Right.
It's about as well as you can do in a loss. It's about as well. I mean, without Jack, maybe some of the splash plays of the Texas game in the 2009 Big 12 championship. It was reminiscent of that, of just like, wow, the defense is doing pretty much everything they can to allow Nebraska to win. And the frustrating part is the offense did move the ball. They had the drive at the end of the first half executed to perfection as they finish up and they go up 10-0. And then they're moving the ball again in the second half. And it's like, wow, they're going to execute the middle 8 again, just like they did versus Wisconsin, and it's going to be what causes them to win. And obviously,
it felt like it. It really felt like it. But with Iowa, man, I honestly think in the groin kick area, you've got to beat Iowa because of the horrendous way. God, freaking smug Kirk Ferentz sitting there just playing that game like they're going to screw up at some point. They're going to screw up. I don't care. I'm not going to go for it on 4th. I'm never going to go for it. Even if the book says go for it, I'm going to punt it. They're going to screw up at some point, and damn it if he wasn't right. He was right. Yeah.
And then, hey, how about that quote that you guys read, that Happer read to you from the Iowa player about shaking their hands or some stupid crap in the coin toss before the game? God,
I think there were people who were wound up about Nebraska doing that. Whatever, you know how I am. Anything that can provide you external motivation against these teams is something Nebraska is fine with me at this point. So. Yeah. They put cops on the field to stop Nebraska from going on the Hawkeye. It was so stupid.
So dumb. Alex says 4 walk-off field goals for Iowa during the groin kick era.
Unreal. It's
Gross.
unfreaking real.
That is so nasty. Oh my gosh.
Yep. The field and never. And here's the more painful thing. Usually the Iowa field goals, and what last year it was by a guy who was a bad kicker. This guy, of course, was great. This kicker had a great season. And then he kicks the one on the timeout and just puts it right down the cacker on that thing. And you're like, oh, God. And then he kicks the second one and off his foot. I'm like, that's going to our left from the backside, his right. I'm like, man, that thing's like slicing. And
the
it might
camera
also
pans up for some reason.
And it might also be short. And it lands. I'm like, I think it was short and or left. And no, the refs are putting their hands up. I'm like, what happened? What a weird angle on that field goal to make me think he missed it for a second.
You have one job to do, camera. You have one job to do. What in the world are you doing?
Right,
Why is
exactly.
The camera panning up. Hey, they're the goalposts. Let's pan away, and then we'll tell the audience what happened.
Right. You've got the least pressure as a camera guy in that entire stadium.
Seriously, it's so easy. So, D'Lo, yeah, Nebraska had the ball near midfield, under 1 minute in a tie game the last 2 years, lost both in regulation. I was thinking the exact same thing last night, that they did it again. Not only did they lose, but they somehow lost in regulation, even though they had the ball at midfield. It is insane.
Crazy. With the turnover, I mean, update the Stumanji spreadsheet, right? Did Stumanji did he update the spreadsheet? I haven't seen.
Not yet. I can't imagine he has.
It's crazy, Josh, how many of those on Stumanji's spreadsheets on the drive with less than 5 minutes or whatever I don't know what his number is on it, that could win or tie the game, not only don't succeed, but they end in turnovers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the crazy thing. They almost always end in turnovers.
Yeah. It's like, hey, if you end on a missed field goal and it goes to overtime, okay, at least you had an attempt. They didn't even get an attempt. It's like the Bears Lions game the other day. They didn't even have an attempt to try to win the game or tie the game. They lost by 3, I think. Nebraska didn't even have an attempt to win the game, from 50 and have everybody, talk themselves into a long field goal.
Riss says maybe we need to delete the spreadsheet, Stumanji's spreadsheet, to end the one-score losses. At some point when they get one, we are having him printed out a million times and
we'll burn it
with a spreadsheet burning ceremony.
This would be so funny. This would be hilarious. Like everyone has spreadsheets and we put them into a fire.
Right. And everyone, he can put it on a Google Doc and everyone can do their own little fire at home with the spreadsheet and send in their pictures and videos of it.
Yeah.
It's like when someone gets traded and they burn their jersey, but we're doing it with a printed off spreadsheet with a Microsoft Excel file.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. Lord.
We burn his entire computer. Is his computer? Is that it? Is it Stumanji's computer? Are the spirits in that?
Is causing the issues?
Is that what this analytics guy has found? Some kind of a connection? I like the Office.
By the way, JD, an Iowa fan who must be hanging out in the YouTube comments, he sends us a video of the non-coin toss handshake. And apparently, Jack, as I watch it, Iowa tweets "ope." And they walked up and Nebraska didn't shake their hands, and then Iowa's players walked backwards. My God,
I liked how
people care about the dumbest crap sometimes.
Whatever, I don't care. Congrats
Nebraska on giving you motivation. You're a loser. I guess you're
first
a
of all,
Nebraska's a loser.
Iowa didn't need motivation for Nebraska to make a bad snap on a field goal, fumble a punt, and fumble a pass when you're dropping back to pass. Iowa did not win that because they had superior
they didn't shake their hands
because of that handshake. Because it didn't look like, the offensive line came out at the beginning of the game, Iowa's, and they didn't look like they were motivated. Nebraska looked like they were way more motivated than they were.
Did.
So I don't.
It's like, hey, not shaking the hands, Jack.
Whatever.
It's like, one of the things that you've always talked about in these games is that Nebraska shows up and they want to win, more than the other team. And,
I'm for personal
beefs. It looked like
beefs.
they really gave a shit.
I'm 100% for creating personal beefs between teams. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care don't care at all. Glad they did it. Do it in the bowl game. Whatever.
Yeah.
That's how I think.
Man, I'm interested to see, Jack, what the vibes are like going into that. I know we talked about it. We talked about it earlier in the pod, but just like how this changes kind of the mindset of this place going into the bowl game. We're still a week away from learning who they'll play. What is that going to be like for everybody around here? Is there going to be any excitement? Does it matter where it is? Does it matter the opponent?
Josh, here's what's going to happen is there's going to be some news at some point this week about something, whether it's Tony White
Coaches,
or a transfer or Dana Holgerson. And somebody I saw somebody in YouTube chat, by the way, if you want your chat on YouTube, give us a super chat and we'll read it. Otherwise we read Discord chat. Somebody said something about a rumor about Tony White going to, I think he had Florida State on there. I don't know. I haven't heard anything. about that. But I think a lot of us think he probably is moving on. Nothing's been confirmed on that.
I think he's going to – I don't think he is going to coach at Nebraska next year, yeah.
I can move on. Like, I am a
but
little
I think
surprised.
Holgorsen will, Jack. I think Holgorsen will coach at Nebraska.
I am a little surprised how fine everyone is with that, but okay, you know. The defenses weren't perfect and they broke down at the end of games for sure, but boy, it could have been a lot worse. And so I sure hope they are able to replace him with somebody who is a plus on that end of it, because I'm a little concerned.
I think, Jack, I think what it comes down to is just the up and down nature of the defense this year. I think that's why. I'll be honest though, man, I don't know how much of it's on Tony White versus how much of it is on like a lot of voices on that side of the ball. They brought in Butler and it seems like he's the heir apparent. You know, like I do wonder how much of an impact positively and negatively he has had on that side of the ball. But you know what it is, man. People love the shiny new toy. Tony White was the shiny new toy last year. He is not the shiny new toy anymore, and the defense, let the team down at times this season, whether it was like the Illinois game. They did not last night. I think we all agree with that. They did not let them down last night, but they weren't even perfect. They weren't even perfect last week versus Wisconsin. Adam points out Snow's been here too. That's great. That's a great point as well. So, masturbator. I saw the White to Florida State rumor on one of the recruiting sites. Yeah, that one is definitely been the thing over the last couple of days that he is.
Norvell staying at Florida State? I don't know what's happening. They're probably just clearing out all their assistants there.
Yes. The thought is that he is going to go to Florida State to be their defensive coordinator. He is not going to go there to be their head coach.
I mean, 21st in the nation in total defense. Nebraska is.
Yeah. Well, how about this from Huss? He says the defense let the team down almost every week despite being really good. It's the weirdest thing even last night. Yeah,
I don't know how it's a great way to describe it, Huss. That's a great way to describe it. I don't know how to evaluate both of those things together. In some ways, it's weird because he's right. He's right. Last night, I think it was less so, even though it did happen on a play. But there were a lot of games where it was more than one play, right? USC ending, the UCLA game, a bunch of the loss, the Illinois game, So there were a bunch of them where it was multiple plays where they just didn't play in the same character that they did for much of the rest of the year. So it's a weird, it's a weird place to be. There's definitely a worse place they could have been, though. That's for sure. That's for sure. And that's, I think, what I'm worried about, assuming he's out of there. But
Ben says, why would he make a lateral move?
That's good. That's a good question. Money.
I mean, part of it. Okay, you go to Florida State. First of all, Florida State is not a lateral move. I know that they've had a really bad year, but they are a more talented roster than Nebraska. They're going to have more NFL players on their roster, and so that is going to be something that you have there. You go there and you have a chance to play for a national championship or make a playoff next year. Whereas I don't think that I don't think Nebraska is going to be able to play in the college football playoff next year. And part of it, man, is. Maybe it's just, run its course at Nebraska. Maybe he's just ready to move on. I'm curious, Jack, to see what we learn, in terms of intel coming out of the program after this season of just like, how did the relationship with him and Butler go?
Yeah.
Were there any issues there?
It's a fair question, though. Why, if he's going to be a DC at another Power 5 school, why, right? Why can't you keep him if they want to? Do they want to? There's a lot of questions that I have about that I think are completely fair questions. Another thing that's interesting, Josh, and maybe it was just where the cameras went during this game. I felt like I noticed Tony White, like shots of him and him being active on the sideline more than I ever had. Not only when they were on defense, but when Nebraska was on offense. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like he just seemed,
did show him a lot.
Maybe it's just the cameras went to him, but like he seemed unusually into this game, I thought, for whatever reason.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that's a good point. They showed him a lot. I noticed that as well when we were watching the game last night.
And does he take guys with him is the other question. That's the other question that I've got if he leaves. Mm-hmm. They got a lot of guys. I mean, there's, I don't know,
who do you least want to lose on the defensive side of the ball? Which of the position coaches?
No, I meant
defensive
players.
Line, right?
Yeah. In terms of coaches, but I was saying players. Yeah, it's defensive line for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
That would be brutal. That would be a brutal loss.
But in terms of individual players, I mean, Jamari Butler's from the South, right? He's from that area. I don't know what I know he said he's coming back. And then those young linebackers, I mean, man, Shavers, McGahee, they're the future of the defense. He's going to Florida. Those are Florida guys, right?
Yeah.
I mean, those would be the ones I'd be worried about.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that'll happen at all. Maybe I'm just creating. But to answer this all came from your very original question. Is like, what is the vibe going to be around the bowl and the team in the next week? I just think there's going to be enough news that it's going to kind
this
of
will take over.
Yeah, that's my thought. And again, there could be Holgorsen news too.
Yeah, there could. I think that there will be Holgorsen news this next week.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. You could get like the positive Holgorsen news and then the negative Tony White, or for some people, positive Tony White news. So, people are going to be either happier. I don't know how people are going to react to those things. Holgorsen reaction, I think, will be generally positive. I think that the reaction if Tony White leaves, which again, I've thought that for a while, I think that is going to be fairly mixed. I think that there will be some people that are like, sweet, get him out of here. The 3-3-5 is a soft defense. And others will say, oh my gosh, the defense has been the one positive about the team, over the last couple of years. So,
yeah. Will it be? Yeah. What could intercede positively in the time? Obviously, Holgorsen signing or becoming the permanent OC for sure.
Yep.
And then I assume you'll have transfer portal announcements starting to come, right? It was interesting. Yes. There was all this smoke about Fedoni transferring. He had a pretty good game. He missed he missed a block for sure on one of them. But as a receiver, there was one pass they had to him, that long pass they had to him, and I was like, God, why are they not used him like that this entire year? That was the one where I think Dylan kind of feathered it right over the guy's hands, and Fedoni went up and got it. And I'm like, that's how you use that guy's body and strengths to your advantage. And girl, they never freaking did it as well. And I'm not saying he's a Mackey Award winner, Josh. I think he is, he is who he is. We know who it is, but at least use him to his strengths, which is not him running with the ball. It's going up and getting balls.
Yeah. Well, should we get to the Saturday flight, Jack, on the day after another brutal loss when no one wants to watch football anymore?
One last thing before we do that. Did you see what they finally did with Heinrich Harburg?
I did.
They
and it almost worked.
It almost worked. Although I was like, dude, don't throw that, which was really ironic given my insistence that he throw it at some point. That was a dangerous throw. It's funny. Harburg is the exact opposite in terms of risk aversion to Dylan Raiola right now. When he gets a chance to throw, he is bombs away when he gets that chance. And I thought that was interesting. I was hoping they would have done it in short yardage, to be honest, but I think they were having enough success running the ball. No matter what, the touchdown that they got when Robinson and Judy were in, and the entire team just plowed over that Iowa defense. They can never take that away from me, at least.
Yeah. And Matt says, what about the bigger than overreaction bingo results? Matt, we haven't forgotten. Don't worry. We'll get to that too. We got plenty of stuff coming up in the last few minutes. Saturday flight. We begin, Jack, with the early window. A ranked game, and it's not Michigan at Ohio State. How about them apples? Michigan at Ohio State, number 2 Ohio State. They're 3-touchdown favorites. Man, it'd be so funny if Michigan upset them. I would laugh so hard. I feel like, Jack, here's my take. I feel like we're going to see some crazy stuff happen today, almost upsets, just like we did yesterday. Yesterday was nuts. Georgia almost goes down. Kansas City in the NFL almost goes down. Iowa almost goes down, and all of the enemies won. So I'm guessing for more of that today.
Yeah.
I'm guessing for more of that today.
Yeah. South Carolina Clemson will be interesting. That Georgia Tech game was wild last night, by the way. Connor and I were watching it during the show.
Dude, that was so funny how he kept pausing 5 seconds for you so you wouldn't get spoiled, but then sometimes he wouldn't pause 5 seconds.
Yeah. Tennessee, Vanderbilt. Yeah, the SEC. Like, how do we cheer for the SEC to miss the playoff properly, right? We definitely want Tennessee to lose to Vanderbilt, yes.
Yes. Clemson beating South Carolina would just to knock out a potential at-large team.
Auburn. Yeah, we definitely want Auburn to beat Alabama.
Yes.
Yeah. For sure.
And then Kansas, Baylor on there. The 11 a.m. window is not the best in the world. To the 2:30 window we go. Again, it's a lot of teams and games involving ranked teams, but not ranked on ranked. The Iron Bowl, if the game was at Jordan Hare, I would expect maybe this game to be a little bit closer, but I don't know. Maybe Alabama stinks and they'll lose. I don't think so. Notre Dame is going to go on the road. Notre Dame has been a wagon basically since they lost back in September.
I can't believe this. I think Notre Dame is underrated. It's so weird to say that out loud. I think I don't see this as one of the possible upsets today. I think they're going to house USC today. But the next two that you've got on there, I think both could be upsets.
Yeah, Arizona State is on the road at Arizona. Arizona State wins, and they make it to the Big 12 championship game. Miami is at Syracuse. Miami wins. They make it to the ACC championship game. If Miami loses, Clemson goes, If Arizona State loses, I have no idea because there's a lot of permutations, so I can't
Tiebreakers
totally help you out there.
Are hilarious.
Yeah, they very much are. They very much are. So that's what's going on in the mid-afternoon. In the evening window, I mean, honestly, Jack, the game that people have been looking forward to since the move of Red River to the SEC was announced. Texas at Texas A&M, and we get it in year one of Texas being in the SEC. I will be back in Omaha for this. I'm very excited to sit on my couch and watch this game. I think Texas is going to go in there and ruin the evening of the cult that is Texas A&M fans.
I don't know how to feel about. I don't know what I want, Josh. I think I probably want Texas to win. I think
interesting
because I
want Texas to win.
I think because Texas A&M then is out of the playoff, right? And that's another SEC. Texas is in no matter what, so you can't get them out of the playoff. A&M's on the line. Plus, it's not like A&M is fun to cheer for to knock off Texas, either. So
yeah,
I think I'm probably going for Texas in that game. Sadly,
yeah, I think so too. We do have a ranked on ranked Farmageddon on Fox at the same time. Kansas State at Iowa State.
Yeah, that's a good. Game.
Iowa State obviously trying to win and get to the Big 12 championship game.
Cold weather. Yeah.
Yep. Washington at Oregon on NBC. Oregon, I think, is certainly a lock for the playoff at this point in time, but will they go undefeated in the regular season? And when will they pull their starters? A lot of people are wondering about that. Oklahoma's LSU, which my brother-in-law will be at. He's a Sooners fan, Jack. I'm very curious to see how he takes that game in. LSU, talk about a team that's underachieved this year, man. LSU.
I think Oklahoma's got to have a hangover after the Alabama win. LSU big.
All right, there you go. And then into the sickos window, just a few games. Houston at BYU on ESPN. Air Force at San Diego State on FS1. I don't know where the New Mexico-Hawaii game is at, Jack, so just find a weird stream somewhere and good luck.
Crackstreams.com. If you don't mind a lot of malware on your computer.
Yeah, hey, trade the malware for a little football. Trade the malware for a little bit of football. So that is what we have. That's what we have going on there. Jack, we do want to give a congratulations and a shout out. So we originally, when we put together the bingo game, we said we'll just give prizes to 2 of our listeners, but we ended up having 3 people that actually completed their bingo cards, the randomizers that my wife made. So shout out to our 3 winners. We're going to give each of them, Matt, Mike and Cheyenne, and Dave Fight, a $25 gift card to the Spreadshirt store, which still has, Jack, this weekend. It still has the Black Friday sale going on all the way through, what is it, Sunday? So,
I believe it goes through Sunday.
Congratulations to those 3. Yeah.
And the sale, by the way, is probably the best sale this is the best combination
I've ever had.
I've ever had. A couple of weeks ago to launch Basketball, we did a 30% off sale. This is a 25% off sale, but it's also free standard shipping as well. So
awesome.
It goes throughout the weekend. Yep, you can get it throughout the entire.
And by the way, if you go to our YouTube page, and we have some new viewers that are watching who subscribe today, we appreciate you hanging out with us. If you go to the YouTube page, the store is actually at the very top of it. And so you can click over there, and then it will lead you right to the actual
easiest
store
way to find it.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. So hit that up and get some basketball merch. But yeah, congrats to those 3 $25 gift cards. We'll get that sent to you at some point, either today or tomorrow. So shout out to you. Oh, and shout out to Connor. He says if you want to watch the Hawaii game, and he has posted us the instructions on the Team One Sports app. If you would like to watch it there.
We've got to download software. Oh, it's an app.
Yes. Got it. Yes. And that game tonight, Jack, as I pull it up real fast, that game is at where is it? Did I miss a game when I was putting together? What in the world? Jack, I think I might have messed up on my graphic.
You missed another late game?
I missed a game. Oh, never. I missed Tennessee State at Montana. I missed an FCS game. Okay. New Mexico at Hawaii is at 10 o'clock Central Time. So if you want to watch it, that's where you can go.
Cool.
Jack, we did it, man. We did another show. I loved your tweet last night where you said, like, I really have to stop saying yes to things. That was very funny. That was very funny.
It was good. It was fun. I was glad I did it. Honestly, it was better than just going to bed or listening to it. And I actually had fun with it, making melodramatic faces during every phone caller. That was fun, reacting. At one point, fully reclining in my chair, which who made that meme with Kirk Ferentz and Caitlin Clark and Herky the Hawk? Whoever made that was freaking hilarious. So
that was very good.
Shout out to, I don't know who made it. I missed that.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
Oh, incredible. All right.
And one note here, Josh, an important one. Best luck to Creighton basketball today. They play in Las Vegas again today. And John Bishop, I think John Bishop needs them to win. So for the well-being of John Bishop and
of
the
my
Nebraska,
friend and yours,
my friend and yours, and the Nebraska, resume. I don't know who they played. They play Oregon today. Is that who it is? Is it
no?
Somebody will know in the chat. Sorry, I've been in football mode. So.
They play Notre Dame.
Oh, Notre Dame. They'll win that. So you know what? Big fun day in Vegas. Can you believe John's still there, Josh?
Dude, he has to be miserable.
That's a long trip.
That is a very long trip. Yeah, John will finally be home tomorrow, I believe. Maybe since the game is early, they'll come home today, but I think they're coming home tomorrow. And hey, speaking of, Jack, that's a great reminder that the next edition of After Nebraska Ball will come your way tomorrow night. You're going, right? So it's going to be a little bit later, maybe a little closer to 6 o'clock tomorrow for the start time.
I don't think I ever got tickets, so I don't. That's still on hold, so I may not be, but we'll keep people posted either way.
All right. Perfect. So 5:30-ish, maybe a little later, maybe a little bit earlier. But the best way, of course, to get involved with that is just to like and subscribe to the YouTube page. You'll get notifications when that thing is rolling. And if you want more from us, as I finally return home tomorrow, or today rather, and we get to do pods from our normal studios. I'm very excited to be back in my normal studio. I was in Vegas, and now I've been in Colorado. I'm excited to be home and see my dog. So after this, we're going to finish packing, and then we're going to go to the airport. So
nice.
Shout out to you, Jack.
I never leave. So
you never leave. You're always there. All right. So Jack's back tomorrow with Caleb and Bigelow. We are back together, I believe, on Wednesday night, Jack. I don't think that there's a game in the way for either of us, but we're getting very close to the part of the schedule where there will be Nebraska basketball games on Wednesdays, or some games that I have to announce on Wednesdays. And so we will figure that out, how that will affect us moving forward.
Josh, we're also at the part of the year where we have to start talking a little Nebraska ball during the pods. FYI.
Yes, we are. During the normal pods, not just during the Nebraska ball pods.
Yeah. You got to start. You got to get ready, baby, because if things get magical again, you got to join us.
Yep, indeed I will. So we'll have all that. Also, a edition of National Fun League coming your way on Monday morning with Mike Schaefer and yours truly. We start at 7:45 Central, and we talk about the NFL for about 45 minutes before Schaefer says goodbye, and then he goes on and does an interview with Jack Mitchell on his radio show. So we have all of that coming up next week. Doug Maurice is going to join us in a few weeks. We're going to talk about round one of the college football playoffs. So we got a lot coming up in the IED Club. As always, we would love to have you as a subscriber. Hope everyone had an awesome Thanksgiving, whether you're still out and about or on your way home or you are currently home. We hope that you had a great Thanksgiving. So, Jack, enjoy not talking about the Iowa game for another couple days.
Yep, I need a Nebraska ball game. Thanks for joining us. I said last night on Connor's show, if we're all in hell, at least we're all in hell together.
Indeed. And this was a great hell to be in. For Jack, I'm Josh. Thanks for joining us today inside of the I-80 Club.